My name is Tricia Green, and I've been a volunteer with the book sale since 2004. Like a lot of volunteers, my first encounter with the book sale was as a customer. And I attended my first book sale in 2002. It was our last and most infamous pop-up sale at the Bebop Burger. And I wandered in on a weekday afternoon, and I think I was the only person shopping. And I remember George Handler, who was sitting at the checkout table looking for some custom. There wasn't much. But it was real clear to me that, I needed to get here earlier next year. This was something I wanted to experience from the beginning. So the next year was the first year of the Earl Warren sale, 2003. And I understand that the difficulties in finding a location the previous year was one of the reasons that the organization took a leap of faith to move the sale to Earl Warren, which would cost us more, but would also generate more income and revenue for us. So at that sale in 2003, I was there bright and early on the first free day, and I walked in and I made a beeline for the cookbooks because that's my primary interest, and started collecting books. And a volunteer in a blue apron came up to me, and that person was Nancy Davidson. And Nancy looked at what I had collected, and she said, we have some more of these books in our back room. Would you like to see them? And so Nancy walked me to our back room and gave me some time to pick some more books in this series that I was collecting. We walked back out to the sale room, and she said, well, you might want to consider volunteering sometime. So the next year, that would have been 2004, in January, I showed up at our location at Gutierrez as a volunteer. So in those days, we volunteered 2 mornings a week. On Saturday, everybody rough sorted. On Thursday morning, everybody fine sorted. We didn't have, a lot of what we call now category owners, people who were responsible for a particular category, and that's all they did. You showed up on Thursday, and whatever books had accumulated in whatever category, those are the ones that needed to be priced and packed for the sale. And sometimes you worked with a team, maybe sometimes on your own, sometimes with a partner. So that was also the first year that I volunteered at the Earl Warren sale in the fall. It was the same kind of thing. I was a new volunteer, so I showed up and just asked for a job and was given a table to set up. So this goes on for a few years, but I always had my eye on those cookbooks because I was really interested in them. And this happened to be one of the few categories that did have somebody who had full responsibility for it. And that was the wonderful Jane Greenberg, who was my predecessor. But about 2007, Jane could no longer devote the time to doing this, and so I was asked to take this on. And that's when I became the cooking category owner, which I then did for the next 15 years until 2022. A lot of times people say, why do we even sell cookbooks anymore? Why do we need cookbooks? You can get everything off the internet. But people come and buy cookbooks for a lot of different reasons, which is what makes it really interesting to me. And I'm going to give my favorite quote about cookbooks. This is from Jose Andres, who's a chef, writer, and great humanitarian. He's the guy who parachutes into disaster areas and sets up kitchens and gets people fed. And Jose says, "Old cookbooks connect you to your past and explain the history of the world," which is really true. Food history is now an accepted academic subject. So it's not just about recipes, it really is about culture. So for me, I've just learned so much about food culture from doing this for 15 years, both just from the amazing donations we get from our community, people who've lived all over the world, but also these customers who come to the sale, and they've educated me over the years. So it's been a great personally, it's just been a wonderful learning experience. And if you've ever had the fantasy of running your own little bookstore, it kind of feels like that. That you get to, within the donations, you can curate what you offer to the public and run your own little bookstore for 2 weeks every year. It's also a category that really has deep emotional connections to a lot of people. Some people come in just because, they do want a recipe, or some people just like to read cookbooks. I call it, like armchair travel. I call it armchair cooking. Some people are looking for their mother, the same edition of their mother's or their grandmother's cookbook, and they want that. And in this community, unfortunately, I've helped people replace lots of cookbooks that have disappeared in the many natural disasters that we've had. In fact, one of my early memories at Earl Warren, this was after the tea fire. A woman came in, was down on the ground looking for cookbooks, and I asked if I could help her, and she told me what she was looking for. There wasn't anything particularly unusual or rare, the things that we would see year after year, but I found the copies of the books that she was looking for. And she had a total meltdown right there sitting on the floor in the aisle. She was just absolutely overcome, burst into tears that, we were able to help her in this way. So this is it's a category that evokes a lot of memory and a lot of emotions for people. So I love working with our customers. That's really one of the great satisfactions. It's also, to me, a big community building event. It's something that people look forward to year after year. And it presents to me another positive face of Planned Parenthood over and above the wonderful work that is done at the clinics. And it is free to the entire community, which I think is really important. It's a fundraiser, but it's the one fundraiser that nobody has to pony up any money for to participate in. This also reminds me of another story about community building. My husband, Don, who's also a volunteer, is very frequently one of the doormen on the opening night of our reception, taking money and tickets. And he has told me this story of most of the people had already come in, everyone was shopping, and a woman and her young daughter appear at the door, and this is a $25 ticket event, but they were confused. They thought it was free, and so they were so disappointed that they didn't have the money. They didn't have the money for the 2 tickets, and they were very disappointed that they couldn't come in that night. They were very nice about it, but very disappointed. Up walks another customer right behind and gives Dawn a $100 bill so that not only can she go in, but the mother and the daughter can come in too. So that's to me the kind of community building that this event and this organization contributes to. Another story that I love about the community, this is one Terry Brown tells, so I may be stealing her thunder. It was the last day of the sale, and Sunday it's free entry, and everything is half price. Terry is sitting at the cash register, and a woman comes in the door, twirls herself around, and says, "This is my favorite day of the year." And so, so this is for book lovers and for the community. It really is something that the community looks forward to every year. And what about PP? Obviously, the fact that we can continue to provide some sort of a revenue stream to PP year-round, I think is extremely important. And something that Jenna Tosh said to all of us as volunteers last year has really stuck with me. It's what I remind myself. When she was thanking us for our work and thanking us for the money we raise and for what we do, she told us that you too are in the fight. And so I always think about that when I think about what this means to PP and what we're doing. Over the years, we've had some challenging times. And I think about 2020, which was the COVID year, as everybody knows. Talk about a difficult problem to be solved. Like I think a lot of businesses and organizations, there have been some silver linings in all of that sad time. Well, we learned how to run book sales in a lot of different ways that year. It was the first year that we did a warehouse sale at the request of our book dealers. It was the year that we opened it to the public in a limited way by fencing off the parking lot and controlling the crowds and let people come in an unbearably hot September, and how patient everyone was because they were so anxious to come in and buy books. And really how flexible all the volunteers were to work under those most difficult conditions. We had to cover and tarp all the tables every night because of the marine layer that flowed in. It was physically grueling, but everybody pitched in, volunteers and customers, and it was a highly successful sale. So what we learned about that. I think another challenge was when we were at last able to go back to Earl Warren, our home. The old location, Warren Hall, wasn't available to us. So our leadership began to look at the other space, which was the exposition center. And I think the big challenge there was, how do you fit a rectangle into a star? And how is this space going to work for us? Well, there were a lot of discussions, I know, and a lot of iterations of those floor plans, and I think a lot of doubts by some people. But when we all moved in and saw what this could bring to us, it was another step forward for the sale. So, sometimes these challenges and these problem solving, I think have benefits that we don't even know until we've gotten beyond the problem. So I think that kind of summarizes, I'm in the year of the 50th year of the sale will be my 20th year. So that just seemed very fitting to me. But I'm not planning on retiring.